Greetings and salutations, this is Wolffoetowtech coming directly to you through the power of the internet via the YouTube video sharing platform. And here we go, and I'm going to talk about what I think of the Nintendo Direct. There's some really nice little fun stuff thrown in the beginning with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but it's not necessarily what's being updated in the Nintendo Direct. However, there are some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate updates as well as a few other fun things. Here is a little fun section of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Breath of the Wild Link fighting some shells in which spirits were forced into, and here we go with the DLC character number 2. Well, actually, character challenger pack number 2 character. That'd be a third, actually, because there's Piranha Plant, obviously. The hero, or heroes, from Dragon Quest. The luminary from Dragon Quest 11, Echoes of an Elusive Age, S, Definitive Edition coming to the Nintendo Switch. And we have this fun little, obviously a reference to Tiny Metals. There's it's gonna jag up a little bit. Oh, there's a speed option. Yeah, that's nice. It's nice that there's a speed changer, but I wish there really was, as in the Nintendo Player, or an option. The hero from Dragon Quest 8, I think that's the hero from Dragon Quest. Is it 4 or 6? And then there's Eldrick, the legendary hero, and then there's a few others that are thrown in. And so they're obviously all skins of the hero for Dragon Quest. Various different versions of different heroes. Well, how should I rephrase that? It's better to describe it as yeah, it's basically kind of like Bowser Jr. and all the Koopalings. And then there's a few more. And there's only like something like 8 different skins, and so you can't have 11 different heroes from 11 different Dragon Quests. So you're just limit. 2 of them lose out. Yeah. And then we go into the nice little beginning here. You are the luminary, as I stated before, the hero of Dragon Quest 11. It's on the list of games to get, but I kind of had to space all this out because I have a ton of stuff I had to buy, like capture card, new computer, stuff like that. So there's only going to be a few games here and there I'm going to be able to pick up. You kind of have to balance everything, you know? You have to save up money and make sure you get all your essentials down, like paying your taxes and rent and food and insurance and gasoline for your vehicle or vehicles. So it'll take a while for me to pull all the things together for this. September 27th, 2019. Complete story on the Nintendo Switch. Yoshiaki Koizumi. Yoshiaki. So, next Nintendo Direct, he's going to be replaced by Yoshi. Or a future one. And obviously we got Bowser here as a secondary gentleman and to help announce what's coming up next. We need a translator. We need a translator for both of them. Who is this guy? But this Bowser has a red mane. He is very regal. Some say he's a king. Yes, we should have Bowser and Yoshi in the next Nintendo Direct. In fact, they should have Link Inc. announce many of the games in future Nintendo Directs. There should be a Legend of Zelda Direct with Link as the host. He has to explain everything to everyone. I like a little bit of RPGs, but I've always been more of a action platformer, shoot 'em up kind of person. Not an FPS, but I mean classic shoot 'em up like Mega Man and stuff like that, and shmups. Luigi's Mansion 3. Looks really nice. Looks a lot of fun, but yet again, and I can never quite play all the way through a Luigi Mansion game. I kind of get started and get halfway in and kind of lose track of myself, and then something else comes out, or like a Legend of Zelda game or Super Smash Bros. A Super Smash Bros. Game, and I'm like, I'm playing that, and Luigi's Mansion kind of gets forgotten. Literally, what happened with the GameCube, who got Luigi's Mansion, played into it, and then Super Smash Bros. Melee, and I kind of just fell into Melee and just kept playing. I kind of wonder why the ghosts are so aggressive. Of course, yeah, it's answered in the game, but seriously, why do all ghosts have to be so aggressive? You keep pounding the same one. A suit of armor, pull a shield off of another ghost. There's a bunch of apples obviously all over the place, and there's a really interesting motif on some things. Things like literally screams Legend of Zelda in some places with some of the shapes and symbols. But then we have this musical motif here, so that's obviously like the music hall or something over there. And we got Guigi here. Now the question is, if Guigi can do that, isn't he a superior version of Luigi? Minus the water thing. They mentioned that right here. Kind of like a pit of 100 trials here, I guess. And we got like 4 Luigis on screen. How in the heck did that happen? What did Egad do now? He created a cloning machine? Hmm. Available in 2019. Wait a minute. We're in 2019. When will it be in 2019? Probably sometime around the holiday. Sometime in November, December. That's a good guess. He gone all squeaky. And here's a video. This is Dark Crystal. I've seen the Dark Crystal, and I've seen Labyrinth and a few other Jim Henson production movies and other fun stuff. Uh, it's never something that's really grabbed on to me. So yeah, it's I do like tactics games. I always liked combining all the different classes and coming building out my own versions of awesome combinations. This game is definitely going into the cycle on my channel for gameplays. The only thing I don't like about doing like a story oriented game is I kind of want to like focus on multiplayer and just stuff that is not like a story oriented game, but I really like Legend of Zelda games. So at some point I'm gonna like literally do all the Legend of Zelda games on the channel. It's just I kind of want to like spread it out, or go back to the really old stuff of that. There's no like there's literally like zero spoilers. That's kind of neat how the apple kind of gets eaten and shrink. It gets chewed up around the core, and then it disappears as Link apparently eats the core as well. Which, incidentally enough, I actually eat the core as well when I was a kid. Long time ago, before I ever heard of the story of the guy who saved up a whole cup of apple seeds and died. Interesting fact about apple seeds. The apple seeds contain an incredibly small amount of arsenic. Now, a single apple seed is not going to kill you outright, or even a apple worth of apple seeds, but a whole bunch of them actually have enough, or a couple of them actually have enough arsenic in them to actually kill a person. So, don't eat piles of apple seeds. But this is really cool. You get to build your own little dungeon, and you get to go through it. He's actually really easy to beat. All you have to do is get between him and the roller and keep swiping at him. If you hit him fast enough with your sword, or he can never jump onto the other side of the roller, and he's done for. It's literally one of the easiest bosses there is. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is one of my big three 2D top-down Legend of Zelda games of all time. There's Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and Legend of Zelda: Minish Cap, which are my big three faves. And then I also really like I also really like Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. It kind of pauses out like that for a moment, and as it kind of buffers up, kind of like I want to pause this so it just catches up here. But yeah, it's kind of my internet here. It's not exactly the fastest, and right now when I'm trying to make the video here, this happens to be right around the busy time for the areas, so a lot of people are watching Netflix right now. Nice little detail is during this fight, he takes at some point the eye is knocked out of that crab or arachnid type monster. So that's kind of cool. I've played Final Fantasy Adventure, but I've never really played any of the other Tales games. And you don't get very many Tales games that come out in the United States. There was actually one on the there was actually one that came out on the Game Boy Advance or the Nintendo DS. I can't remember the title of it, but it's not even mentioned in this this Nintendo Direct in that collection either. It was kind of a remake of I think the first Final Fantasy, the first Tales game, which was Final Fantasy Adventure or something like that. I can't remember the exact details. Now here's The Witcher. This I would pick up. I would definitely consider picking it up, but I have like limited funds. So yeah, I know it's gonna buffer again. Kind of pause it for a moment. The graphics clearly have been dialed down a few degrees. You can kind of really tell it in the plants, but then you get like the characters and everything else, and the characters still are very high detail. Yeah, this is 2019. When in 2019? Yeah, Fire Emblem, Three Houses. Fire Emblem games are not really my cup of tea. The whole permadeath thing bothers the snot out of me. Not to mention the very specific manner in which you recruit characters in the game, sometimes by having specific characters run into them in a conversation on the battlefield. It always bothers the snot out of me because that's literally like you literally have to know that you have to have a specific character in a certain battle and have to have that specific character walk up to a specific character uh, unequipped or something like that. And that when you do strategies like that, that is hate to say it, but that is just could be classified as asshole design in itself. Because you're going to design something like that, you're literally trying to force people to buy player's guides. And I tend to prefer not to buy player's guides. I kind of like to want to go through a game and I want to experience the adventure of a game in itself. So when you end up having to be forced to buy a player's guide, and which anyways is kind of the reason why I kind of like backed away really quickly from Square Enix games because so many games by Square Enix literally force you to buy a player's guide because there's this treasure chest. If you open it and you open one other treasure chest, you lock yourself out of the best weapons in the game, which is a complete jerk move. And seriously, that's a jerk move. That they're forcing people to buy player's guides or go online and hunt down to find out exactly you need to do this and this and this or not do this. The whole opening treasure chest thing is not opening a particular set of treasure chests is a particular jerk move. Uh, this is the whole Resident Evil thing. I've played a few Resident Evil games. They have never grown on me as a franchise. There's usually always something really badly done in one of them. It's either in the early ones have terrible controls, or like later ones have this forced in AI companion that's dumb as heck, or weirdly quirky where they literally are like your obstacle in the game. Then there's a few other odd choices or mechanics, and it's like I don't know what it is with some Japanese companies when it comes to puzzles and action games and horror games, but they literally seem to artificially force in a weird concept or mechanism that literally compromises your control or your ability to control to artificially create a panic state in you to make the game scarier. But in reality, they are just simply engineering something that automatically that inherently forces you to. Yeah, this is the. Here's a goofy little detail here. The guy runs back to pick up the Nintendo Switch. I've tried out Evil 5. It's an okay game, except your AI partner is a moron. They're either too proficient at some random point, or they're too dumb at some random point. It's not making you scared or in the game. It's irritating the crap snot out of you because you have to fight over a mechanic that doesn't quite work out well. Eternal Darkness does everything better in every possible way. Not actual gameplay. And then here's this fun little transformation, and he takes off, and boom, he's right up on. He launches out a barrage of missiles, and interestingly enough, his armor is one winged, and then all of a sudden, when he takes it off, he changes from one character to another. Of course, there's that sort of meta snarkiness there, referential to various concepts, and that's sort of the uh, Gen Y or Z Zoomer for humor there, and it's sort of like Clown World reference there, where you're basically making fun of tropes of the world. Uh, yeah, there's issues inside of that itself. When you just basically just sit down and make endless jokes about just references to other things, you are basically just running out of create. You no longer create something new, so you just make fun of something old. And then here we go with a fun little touch of history. Some Contra. First and foremost, I beat the original Contra. I beat Super C. Never and never beat. I never beat Alien Wars. Contra 3 Alien Wars. That game is actually rather brutal once you get to the halfway point in that game. Of course, here's this crazy thing with the Contra games. Everything after Contra Alien Wars kind of goes into that really strange territory, and this game falls into that really strange territory where, like, Contra Hard Corps had a werewolf and a robot. Yeah, that's just it's getting crazy, and then it gets crazier after that. And here's another level of crazy. A really good Contra game, which was made by WayForward, was actually Contra 4. However, that was just a brutal nightmare in itself. Interestingly enough, Contra 4 is not even included here. You get a bunch of the original Contras, and then you get the old. By the way, that's in the eShop right now. There's Demon Ex Machina, which is really interesting. I was really big into the Armored Core franchise back on the PlayStation 2. I played all of them on the PlayStation 2. I also played the original PlayStation Armored Cores, and I loved them. But when you got to the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 Armored Cores, they started really changing up the structure of the game, at which point I think, if I remember correctly, instead of being able to freely design your core in Armored Core 4, they forced you to use a schematic system with presets for different parts. And at that point, it's like, no way, the biggest thing with Armored Core games is the customization, and it's like, once you take the customization out, you have no reason to ever play the game again. And then they brought back the customization in Armored Core 5, but then they developed this really heavy emphasis on internet play, which then was like a dead zone for me because at that point in time I didn't have good internet at all. So I'm really excited for Damon X Machina. I actually really like Armored Core games, and I that's on the list of must gets. Here's Panzer Dragoon, and I'm quite sure Adam Krolik and all the Segists are really excited about this. This takes them back to the Sega Saturn days, which were very short days indeed. But interestingly enough, I never owned a new Sega system. The closest I ever came to buying a new Sega system was a Sega Dreamcast. It was literally like a year just before I was literally originally gonna buy a Sega Dreamcast when it first came out, but then I had money troubles when I was a kid. I was always poor as a kid, in spite of the fact I worked hard. And then yeah, we get into the Pokemon Sword and Shield section here, but yeah, I two different lines being spoken over each other kind of throws me every so often. But I was going to buy a Sega Dreamcast, but I couldn't quite earn up enough money quickly enough, and then it got to about a year short. I'm primarily Nintendo, and I stuck with Nintendo, but I was gonna get a Dreamcast at one point, and then a PlayStation came out, PlayStation 2 specifically, and then that went a short while, and then I was gonna get a Dreamcast, and then they announced the game started drying up, and then Sega announced they were going third party, and that was it. Yeah, Nessa as in Nessie, as in reference to the not Loch Ness monster, or also known as Nessie. Oh, that's a terrible matchup right there. Yeah, I'm gonna get Pokemon Sword or Shield and or both. But I have this endless problem with Pokemon games where I buy them, I might start into them, and then I kind of stop, and I haven't been able to really get into playing all the way through, with the exception of Pokemon Pearl and Diamond, which was the last one I played a vast majority of the way through the game. Uh, I played the red, blue, gold, silver, ruby, sapphire, all the way through. I got got almost all the Pokemon in Pearl, Ruby and Sapphire, and Pearl and Diamond, and I got everything in red and blue and gold and silver. I like maxed out everything in those for in the earliest ones, and from there on it was basically a step down on period. This is Astral Chain. First and foremost, sort of this crazy anime Japanese logic that goes on here, where where they get attacked by chimeras, and then they capture a chimera and enslave it, but then it's treated as if it's referred to as if it's a partner or a part of yourself, which is weird, crazy in itself. Uh, and then there's this over dramatic acting here, and this is just there's this really strange thing with a lot of Japanese action games and RP action games and anime where there's this irrational degree of acting and over emoting that occurs, and then there's this really strange logic where it doesn't quite make sense. Like you enslave something and yet it's your partner. a slave and a partner are two different things in themselves. Uh, Incidentally, when I first saw this, I thought this was relating to like LA Noir or something else. It was like a part of that franchise. Literally just one game. It would be two games, then it would be then a franchise, but then it's not. It's clearly something else. Interestingly enough, there's this fascination that keeps looping back to the 1930s, 40s. Yeah, back to actually goes back to the 1920s, 30s. Is mob era uh, and there's coming spring 2020, which is next year. But there's that really strange quirk where people kind of want to go back, referencing to that era, and that era was basically built on over manipulation of markets and the government banning something, which then a criminal empire was built up and grown on. So because it was banned, so banning stuff doesn't work, particularly when it comes to Americans, which I'm a part of. Comic logic constantly doesn't make sense at all. So don't try to make sense of any of it. It's all just crazy fantasy. It's on the short list for games I would be considering buying, but it's yet again I have to. There's the whole buy a capture card and a whole bunch of other things, and then there's this. And then you get to play as Link or Zelda. I really do like this. June 13th, 2019, which is just a few days. Yeah, more Olympic fun with Mario and Sonic. And then we have this whole thing where there's a really funny joke reference in here. If you watch really closely, yeah, we got Sonic and Knuckles and Yoshi skateboarding. We get Peach getting attacked by a fox. But then we have Eggman beating Sonic in a race. I think whoever made this trailer, may have watched a video by Matt Pat at some point. Yeah. And wanted to give a nod to Eggman being faster than Sonic. Oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. By the way, this is my second take on this video. I A lot of people kind of make out Tom Nook to be evil because they think he's a loan shark. First and foremost, Tom Nook is anything but a loan shark. He is he gives you a loan, and he does not compel you to pay. B, does not take everything away from you if you take forever to pay or don't pay at all. And C, he will still do business with you even if you take forever or don't pay him at all. So different types of wood materials. So there's now a crafting survival element to Animal Crossing. And yeah, that's a really nice feature. And I really love the fact that you can actually dig up trees, and you don't have to cut them down anymore. And then she's making a pathway. I really like that. I've always been big into engineering towns in Animal Crossing games. In fact, at some point, I've actually considered this will be a game in rotation, March 20th, 2019 for Animal Crossing. And yes, there's of course this little piece at the end, and where they point out how much she owes Tom Nook, which is not that much. It is a lot of bells, but considering you can literally grab all kinds of stuff around the environment and pay him back with that, that is awesome. But it's not that much considering you can hunt down so many things to pay him for it. And he doesn't ever chase you down or harass you for payment either. Yes. It's a nice little highlight reel. Yes, indeed. And in fact, I'm going to use a speed up function here. And we got a little Spyro, we got some Hollow Knight Silk Song, and then Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which was originally, I think, released on the PlayStation 3. So that's nice. Minecraft Dungeon, that's spring 2020. That's gonna be on the list of games to pick up because it very much looks like something along the rough line of similar to Legend of Zelda. So anything similar to Legend of Zelda, I'm right on it, provided I have money for it. Doom Eternal, I typically don't play Doom games, but I might try that out. The Sinking City, it looks interesting enough as it is. And there's Wolfenstein New Blood. Interesting, but I typically am not that big a fan of FPS games myself. Uh, Alien Isolation doesn't really spark anything with me. I did play quite a bit of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Didn't get too far because I got distracted on other games at the time. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is looking nice. Asen might be interesting, but I had to get around to that. Uh, obviously, I will not do any Square Enix games on the channel because they're possessive. And new Super Lucky Tail, that's definitely a game aimed to grab myself. Playful Studios, I'm gonna play. It's not out of Super Lucky Tail. I love platformers. Super Mario Maker, June 28th, 2019. That's on my list of games to get as well. I was actually considering doing Super Mario Maker or play stream. Not a live stream, but a series of videos. It was coming up here, but kind of got busy with other things. I'm always busy with other things. It's kind of hard to fit things into my schedule. I have work. I have to do mowing for my company as well as grading materials. So this is the fun little thing with. I actually got into so many people pissed off at me because I basically said, it's very unlikely that Banjo and Kazooie will come to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate simply because they are owned by Rare and Rare is owned by Microsoft. I don't really think there's a terribly high likelihood of it happening. And then this happens. And right now, in this video, when I'm recording, icons are flashing up across my phone. It's with people replying back to me saying, screw you, you are wrong. They are in it. I am right. And I never said there was no chance of them being in the game. I just said there is an exceedingly low likelihood of them being in the game. Yet again, I realize there's a possibility because there's a history with Banjo-Kazooie and Nintendo, but they are owned by Rare, which is owned by Microsoft. So it's literally Nintendo has to get permission. Microsoft has to say okay to it, as well as Rare, and Nintendo has to decide, okay, do we really want one of our competitors having a character in our major one of our major games for our platform right on here. Uh, this is a funny little piece right here. I love Ivysaur so much, but he's not the best of the three. Fall 2019. So we got the hero from Dragon's Quest franchise sometime this summer. And then we get Banjo-Kazooie in fall. And then we'll get the next character probably in winter holiday of 2019 going to 2020. And we got Joker. There is the hero. And then there is Banjo-Kazooie. Is there 4 or 5 characters in the pass? And here we go with the last announcement. One more thing from Nintendo, because Nintendo is really big fan of doing the one more thing. This is really interesting as there's clearly... This is the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. They're going down into this underground cavern. There's this hand, this magical energy hand that's hanging down with a spiral that's floating up, as you can see, and then it's holding this body that is clearly probably the original body of Ganondorf. Which is the original body of Calamity Ganon. They wander down there, something clearly happens, and you notice the castle is floating upwards. So clearly, this fascinating little sequel might have Hyrule Castle floating in the sky, interestingly enough. And secondly, there might be quite a bit of underground dungeon or cave spelunking for Link and Zelda to do. And I'm interested in seeing, as Zelda is literally following Link, if the question is, are they going to accidentally split up? Are they going to be forced apart at some point? And Link is going to have to go after Zelda. Or we have this crazy flip situation where Link gets captured and you play through the game as Zelda. Or a third possibility, you get to play as Link and Zelda, and you have a tag team component going on there. And that'd be quite interesting to see. The stuff that I'm most excited about is obviously the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening, more Smash Bros. DLC character announcements, and Animal Crossing New Horizon. Those are the big games I'm really excited for. Other than that, those are the core ones I'm excited for. I'm interested in Contra just because I used to play a lot of Contra when I was a kid. I'm also semi-interested in Luigi's Mansion 3, but that's not the important thing. And also Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition. But after that, it's kind of like that's the A tier right there, and then there's the B tier stuff, which is kind of starts up with Wild Hunt and the A/B, which is Wild Hunt and Contra, Rogue Corpse. But yeah, I'm a really busy person. Oh yeah, Minecraft Dungeons. Yeah, that's a part of the A tier list. I'm interested in. if there's please tell me what you are the most excited for in the comments below, and I'll probably fill in what I want to say about that. And if there's any particular games you might want me to play more on the channel or less on the channel, go ahead and throw that in the comments. And I'm always thinking about what I should do next. What's most likely going to happen next, besides obviously the Animal Crossing being included once it comes out, and Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening being thrown into the rotation, is that I'm probably going to go back to some NES and Super NES games, as well as Game Boy games, if I can dig up find my Super Game Boy add-on for my Super NES. So thank you very much for watching, and please leave a like on this video if you like it, and see you next time. So long, and thank you for all the fish sticks.